Honestly, the PS5, let me just first and foremost say this to everybody who's watching. Shout outs to YouTube. Shout outs to everybody who's watching. Shout outs to all the people here in the chat. Honestly speaking, dude, like, the PS5 is going to be a great system. I've already looked on Twitter, and look what John Lindemann from Digital Foundry says, is that, hey, look, it's a good system, it's fast, it's going to be good, we're going to be able to play great games. If you like third-party games, first-party games, everything's going to look great. I think the system's going to be great. But in terms of presentation, for the normal fans, that was straight garbage. What is all of this technical it wasn't even if I was a developer, that would be boring. That was not, there was no real life demos or real life stuff that they can show. There was nothing there that actually has it right there, proof in the pudding. If you remember back when the PS4 was first revealed, they actually showed some games. And like, they talked about the spec stuff, but they actually had some games being shown off and stuff like that. And they were talking about specs and what the system does, but they actually had stuff that was being shown that was in relation to the games. Like, let's say, okay, you want to talk about SSDs or whatever and faster. They didn't even show like Spider-Man like side by side in comparison. Like, I thought that they'd even at least do something like that. If you want to focus on SSDs and faster and all this stuff like that, I would thought that they would even at least just say, okay, well, here's Spider-Man and here's how it's so much faster, or here's God of War, and actually like show some video. They just showed pictures, just still shots of God of War with some other type of 2 times faster or 10 times faster than what we saw before. They even showed a picture of like Dead Space. It was just all still shots. It was completely boring for the average viewer, the average most people. 99% of people that are gonna buy this PlayStation 5 don't care about all this. Now, I understand it was for GDC, it was going to be Tech Talk, like, I get that, I understand, but at the same time, like, that seems like it'd even be boring for developers. Even if I was a developer, that seems like it would be boring. Yes, you're gonna be interested in seeing, you know, all the specs and how you're gonna be able to develop games and everything, but it just seems like it was just not very well put together in terms of presentation. Like, I understand, like, you need to have specs and you need to have all this stuff like that, but we're getting to the point where I can see why Sony's a little bit worried about this upcoming generation. I can see this nervous, I wouldn't say nervous, but this ASMR presentation from Mark Cerny, you know, where he's sitting there for about an hour memorizing all this different stuff. I don't know if he was reading off a teleprompter or if he had notes, but I mean, did they really just make him memorize all of that? I feel bad for Mark Cerny. Did Sony really come out there and make this dude memorize everything that he just said in that presentation, because he wasn't stumbling over his words that much? So it seems like he had to be rehearsing that. I gotta give credits, whatever they're paying him, good job, good on Cerny, because goodness gracious, man, the fact that he had to go up there and memorize all that, or memorize most of that, he's a very intelligent individual. Let me go ahead and give props to Cerny. You know, usually when you see presentations for systems and stuff like that, there's a little bit of style, there's a little bit of flow, there's a little bit of that person's personal bravado built into it. You see it with Nintendo, for example, or sometimes you even see it with Microsoft and their presentations. You see it with Phil Spencer a little bit. You see his bravado, you see his personality, you see certain things that are kind of built into it. Mark Cerny is a very boring type of dude. You can tell because his presentation style put me to sleep. But he's basically like, he's a really smart individual, but goodness gracious, that presentation was just so boring. And I feel bad. I feel bad for Cerny. And I think that Sony fans are definitely going to be like super, like, in terms of hardcore Sony fans, this is not what they were looking to see. Not only were they peddling stuff like, oh, this is going to be like a 13 teraflop system or right on Xbox Series X. From what I understand, it is a little bit weaker, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, I think that the teraflop count, which is like officially like 10 point something teraflops, weaker than the Xbox Series X, you know, and to get into that comparison. But at the same time, like, I don't think it's really going to be such a, at the end of the day, when we see the games, it's not going to matter. But this is the reason why I was talking about this whole teraflop stuff and this whole trying to get the comparisons to Xbox and all that. Like, PlayStation fans really need to stop doing that, because like the system's probably going to be a little bit weaker. Like I said that before, it's probably going to be a little bit weaker because they're trying to find a good price for this system. You know, they're trying to find a good price. And don't worry about teraflops. We should just worry about games. Like, don't worry about the tech talk and all that, because teraflops don't play games. Yes, this is the stuff that makes it, and there's a lot of factual truth that comes into what goes into these systems and what they can do and your gameplay experience at the end user. But at the end of the day, like, a lot of this stuff is through the development. Like, how well is this developed for? Like, you can play games on weaker systems, like for example the PS3, that look just as good or almost as good as PS4 games, you know what I'm saying, or run great. It's about the development. It's about what the developer puts into the game. Like, I'm playing Trials of Mana right now, PS4, PC, Switch. It all runs and plays great on all the systems. It's just a great game to play. So all this tech talk and all this stuff is just so, like, it's so boring. It's so boring at the end of the day, because this is what they did before with the PS4, and with the Xbox One. They talk, well, not as much with the Xbox One, there was a lot of TV with that, but like, at the end of the day, all that matters is the games. And yes, I get it, they said that they're going to talk about games later, but like I said, as the end user, as the customer for Sony's system, which I'm going to buy the system, I want to hear about the actual, like, what does the specs do for us in a tangible way. I felt like I was, what I'm saying, like I was going through like a lecture in calculus again. Like, it was calculus or it was stats all over again, college OJ, you know what I'm saying? So for me, there was just a lot of just jargon that just went right over my head. Obviously, there's some of the stuff that I understood, but that was extremely boring from a end user standpoint. And I don't understand why Sony felt that it would be a good idea to peddle this out as the road to the PS5, and the first thing that we hear official details from, like, somebody presenting on camera about the PS5 is Cerny sitting here and giving a lecture GDC talk. Like, I think that was a bad idea. I think that what they should have done was probably just release this as a video, just upload it to YouTube. Don't give anybody any type of hype beforehand. Just upload it to YouTube. It shouldn't have been a premiere. It shouldn't have been something that they hyped up. It shouldn't have been like, see the road to play, like that. This should have just been a upload to YouTube and say, hey, this is up there, so then people can just watch it on their own volition. You shouldn't have hyped it as a presentation. You know what I'm saying? That we were gonna, like, they really shouldn't have, or they should have just said, hey, they should have let us know a bit beforehand, because this was just completely underwhelming for most fans out there. I think for most people that just want to play games, that they're not into this technical stuff, I think that it's about the games, you know what I'm saying? It's about the games, and it seems like the system isn't 100% backwards compatible, if I'm not correct. Am I not right on that? Or maybe chat, you guys can help me, or people in the comment section. We still need more information, but apparently it's not fully backwards compatible. There's only certain titles that are backwards compatible. They said about 100 titles that are backwards compatible. Like, wait a minute, what? Like, you can't just put like a PS4 game in there and you can't just have like it play on there? Like, I didn't know that. So, I mean, they need to fix that. They need to make it like 100% backwards compatible. That'd be great. But, I mean, overall, it was just a boring talk. Like I said, Mark Cerny, he doesn't really have the type of voice and the type of, like, bravado that's going to get me more excited about talking about stuff like maybe like a Phil Spencer or a Reggie Fils-Aimé, or heck, dude, he might be underneath Doug Bowser. I'm not really sure. I mean, he's not like Nintendo's people that they got there. And, Nintendo focuses on games. Microsoft is doing a better job focusing on games as well, and just releasing specs on Twitter. I mean, they didn't sit there and do a presentation completely just boring us with specs to death. Microsoft is definitely playing this generation better so far. So to kind of get into the edge comparison, right now when I'm looking at things, the Series X definitely looks like the system that's going to be, in terms of the newer systems, that I think people might gravitate towards more. I mean, this could be a shift. I mean, obviously we have to wait and see. There is some great stuff about the PS5. Like I said, the memory bandwidth, from what I understand, like, it's really fast on paper, according to John Lindemann from Digital Foundry. So, he's a tech guy. So apparently it's really faster than the Xbox Series X in some regards, and there should be some improvements and stuff like that. But I think that you're really only going to see that with first-party games. I think third-party games, at the end of the day, third-party games are going to be the same across the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. I mean, obviously, I mean, you might see some better frames here and there on Xbox Series X or whatever the case is, but they're going to look the same. They're going to perform the same. I think personally, maybe it's a bit better on some or not, just playing on things, but overall, I think it's just going to be the same. And this whole spec talk is just the same thing that we get every single generation, But it is a big step up, in terms of teraflop computing power, and also the architecture in terms of what they're using with the CPU, much better CPU than what the Jaguar cores and stuff that they did with the PS4. So it makes sense. I get it. We're going to get some great games. Third-party games are going to look great. There's going to be nice speeds and all that stuff like that. But this presentation was just horrible. It was just really bad presentation. And in terms of just the viewing experience, information was great, right? If you're into all that stuff, the information was great. They really laid it out for you, but the viewing experience was horrible. And this should have never really been a thing that they hyped up beforehand. And in terms of like the general viewer, they should have just said like, hey, this is just like our talk from GDC for developers. You want to watch it, check it out. And then they should have hyped up more about the games. But, you know, they still have the opportunity. They still have a lot of time before the release of the system. Obviously, it's going to release at the end of the year, maybe October or November. So they have plenty of time to show off games. They're probably going to do like their PlayStation Directs that they do, their State of Play. So they still have plenty of time to make that up. But as of right now, man, the Xbox Series X to me has a little bit of the edge. People were asking me if I had to pick one. I'm getting both. I'm getting PS5 and I'm getting Xbox Series X. But if I had to pick one, what would I pick? You know, it would definitely be the Series X at this point. You know, that would, but we don't have price. You know, we don't have price on that. But those are my thoughts. Those are my honest, you know, raw reactions to this. It was a horrible presentation. It was boring. It was probably great for developers. Maybe they liked it more, but they didn't even get any video. I think the PS4 reveal, when they talked about architecture and specs, that was much better because they actually showed video. Yes, it was boring tech talk too, but I think the slides were even better too. Like, I think everything was better with the PS4 reveal in terms of how they revealed the system and what they showed. Like, they showed off knack and talked about the tech. They showed off Killzone Shadowfall, that first footage of Killzone. It was much better back in February 2013, and I don't know why they went away from that. I think they should have did that in terms of things to just make it a little bit more entertaining for the fans out there. I mean, they had like a highlight reel trailer in the PS4 reveal event, so this one was just way too boring for my own liking. But this definitely should have been something they should have revised and made it more watchable for the viewers out there. Like I said, it's still going to be a good system. I think the PS5 is going to be great. I think it's going to sell well. I think it's going to do great. I think the games are going to be fun. I think God of War and all the games are going to be, people are going to love it. I think the PS5 is going to be fine at the end of the day. But this presentation was horrible in terms of for the viewers. So those are my thoughts. What are you guys' thoughts? Please let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you can subscribe. Share the video if you can. And we'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.